Всем привет! Today I will start with reminding you that prior to this video I had a video about races and Just Cause, but prior to the video about races and Just Cause I had another video which is named Werewolf the Last Warrior or Astergos Curse of the Stars. And the point is, in that second to last video of mine, I actually spent quite a lot of time on the commentary section. I even wrote a plot. Not for the whole video, but for the huge part of it. And I spent quite some time recording the comments. I re-recorded several parts of the commentary for that video, multiple times might I say, so I really gave my all. And the result, the result is that actually, even though I've done my best, the views and the watch time remained pretty much the same, and even more, the average view duration dropped, and I put a lot of effort in the beginning of that video. That was actually one of the parts which I re-recorded several times, and I really tried to make the beginning captivating and, you know, as good as possible, and yet a lot of people dropped this video even earlier than most of my videos. And my average view duration is under 1 minute, which means most of people will not even watch down to this moment, which you are probably listening to currently. You're one of the several special few people for me, you know. You are one of the very, very few, which is kinda insane, because if you think about it, there are like 9 billions of people on Earth already, and yet only like 2 or 3 will listen down to this moment. Anyway, the point is, since the average view duration on that video, which I've put my best in, dropped, I decided that I will not do any more of that stuff. In other words, my desire to become anyhow better with my commentary section have disappeared quickly, promptly, faster than the tears in the proverbial rain. And so, welcome to my usual commentary section, where I will just spit out whatever comes to my mind and where I only barely outline the topics I want to talk about. And even that, not every time I record the comments. I did it this time, though I have several topics I actually want to touch, so maybe this will not be my worst commentary section. We'll see about that, I guess. Once again, pure improvisation, hurrah, hurrah. So, Biolab Wars. It's a small video game from Brazil, and I gotta say I love it. I simply love it. It is way casual, not hard at all, and all the hardcore Contra lovers will probably find it lacking, and lacking a lot. But I, as a casual player, loved Biolab Wars. It is awesome. It is just the difficulty I need. It has just enough enemies for me to be moderately challenging. They can kill me. It has just enough platforming sections for me not to hate this game, because I hate platforming, so there are not a lot of platforming sections in it. And yeah, overall, this is a game which I felt was just my difficulty. I loved it. It is casual Contra, and I loved every minute of it. I completed it several times, and it's amazing. I really love recent Brazilian retro games. There are a number of them that I tried, and all in all, Brazil, or at least game dev in Brazil, reminds me about game dev in my own country, in Russia, because it feels like there are a lot of talented people in Brazil, and yet they lack the funding, they lack those big powerhouses, AAA studios, which would have liked to anyhow finance those talented people, and so it feels like they just do what they can do simply out of nothing but love for the video games as a medium. And it's not perfect, but it has lots of soul, and really I just can't help but love these Brazilian games. So yeah, Gabe, I guess you're watching this because let's face it, most likely you are. You're one of my few viewers, so yeah, much love, man. Much love. I mean, really. I know things are fucked up over there. Things are fucked up over here too, but people in our country, there are definitely some good creative people out there, so like, I hope it brightens your day a bit somehow, just feeling that there are the good creative people out there who just try their best and they're not far away from you or something. I'm not sure how to put it, but it's just like it is, yeah. And yeah, Biolab Wars, so what can I tell about it? Well, as I said, it is really easy, and probably the thing that feels off the most in Biolab Wars is the fact that it, as you could have noticed, it has 4 characters, but there are no kind of multiplayer at all, only 1 character per game. Unfortunately, it would have been great as a couch party game, but I understand. Once again, it's a small title, small game, and adding a second player, it would add a necessity to rebalance everything in a playthrough, to rebalance the amount of enemies, probably their damage, the health of the players, and as is, the game is balanced to the point of a casual one-player playthrough, once again, which I enjoyed a lot. It would have been awesome to add a second player, but I understand that an amount of work, yeah, it would have been rather immense. It's pretty much balancing a whole new game. So yeah, that's what it takes. That is what it takes to add a second player to games like these in order for it to feel, you know, genuine, good. If we just drop a second player in Biolab Wars, it would have been way too easy, and I understand that. Way too easy is not fun as well. I like the difficulty right now, but adding a second player here in this playthrough, yeah, overkill, definitely overkill on the player's side. But other than that, another thing which I find lacking is of course the fact that it somehow it is very poorly optimized. I mean, you might not notice it, albeit it happened several times. I tried out of my playthrough to pick the levels which do not feature this bug, but at some point Biolab Wars actually manages to get a frame drop. And this adds to our everlasting topic of good and bad things in the overpresence of popular game engines which everybody can get their hands on, and the fact that everyone can get into the game dev with minimal amount of experience, you know, because you see, the whole fact that a game which masquerades as an 16 bits Sega Mega Drive game manages to get frame drops on a modern PC, on a modern computer, is, like, to be honest, outrageous. My Sega Mega Drive never had a frame drop in, I don't know, Robocop vs. the Terminator, or in, what was there, Batman, or any other game. My Sega Mega Drive, it handled those games perfectly. Modern computer is thousands times more powerful than that old console, and yet I get frame drops. Outrage. Complete outrage. It shouldn't be like that. And Biolab Wars is just one example, and it is even not that bad. There are worse examples than that. And the fact that it even happens raises massive questions about abilities of the modern game developers, about their abilities to actually, you know, make a game and like optimize it. Because even with such massive powers of the modern computers, there are problems in optimization. It really raises question about the abilities of modern game developers, and the fact that anyone can get their hands on Unity, it shows. It shows with this fact that even games like Biolab Wars get frame drops. And yet on the other side, as I said, I love Biolab Wars. So the fact that anyone could get their hands on Unity, and even devs such inexperienced as the ones who made Biolab Wars could actually make Biolab Wars, it's a good thing in the end of the day. And frame drops, once again, yeah, as I said, it's not even the worst example. Frame drops in Biolab Wars, they're bearable, so the devs of the Biolab Wars are not the worst of them out there. These guys can actually do the game. And yeah, it's outrageous, yeah, but overall I think, alright, let it be. At least, definitely in the case of Biolab Wars, I'm glad things are the way they are, because I like the game, and frame drops, they're not even noticeable much. At least I'm kinda cool with frame drops. I do not see much difference between 60 FPS and 30 FPS. I'm not one of those guys. For better or worse, my eyes do not see that much of a difference. I only noticed frame drops when I was reviewing the gameplay I already recorded. That was the moment where I actually noticed the frame drops. I did not notice it right away. So yeah, these are my thoughts, all in all, because yeah, as I said, kind of outrageous. At the same time, I guess there are more positives than negatives in the whole situation of game development of today. And continuing the theme of game devs, of developers of Biolab Wars specifically, and of the previous issue of multiplayer, I should note right away that the developers of Biolab Wars made another game. Actually, they made two games, but I'm only interested in one right now, which is named Savage Halloween, and I'm interested in it because Savage Halloween actually supports 2 players. And that's great for a couch party, because if Savage Halloween is at least half as good as Biolab Wars, it would be some awesome time. And I suspect that Savage Halloween is just as good. Haven't played it yet, but it is definitely a game which I will play as soon as I will be able to get one of my friends for a couch party. So remember the name, Savage Halloween. If you like what you see on the screen, Savage Halloween is another one to try. And well, I guess I should come to the topic of rhyme and reason of why I've chosen Biolab Wars at all, or why I choose the games I play altogether, because if you look at my channel in general, the range of games can be wild. And I gotta be honest, I don't choose games for graphics or some technological prowess. First thing that interests me the most is the atmosphere. Well, alright, first thing that interests me the most is cars, of course. If there is a muscle car and it's a racing game or even just driving game, huge chances I will play your game. The only game which I couldn't really play through, even though there was a hot rod so far, is named Driver 3. It was unbearable. Driver 3 had a hot rod and I didn't play it. This is the only stain on my reputation so far. So far everything else which I tried which had a hot rod or a muscle car, I played from start to finish. And that's the truth, Ruth. Anyway, the second thing that interests me after the cars and machinery in general is the vibes of the game, the atmosphere. I like cyberpunk, I like space, I like aliens, all that stuff. And if your game has cool atmosphere, I will likely come check it out, even if it is not that great. One of my most shameful examples is 25 to Life, which I completed back in 2000s twice. 25 to Life is not a great game at all, but I was huge on the ghetto back in the days. As a matter of fact, I'm still kinda huge on the whole topic of the streets, street art, ghetto, all those downtrodden topics, if you know what I mean. But I wasn't the only one. GTA San Andreas was huge back in the day, and for a reason, I guess. And well, all I can say is 25 to life is not GTA San Andreas, so there is a fine balance somewhere between the theme and the quality, and I'm the one who definitely puts an emphasis on the theme rather than the quality, and I guess that's what I want to say. And the third thing which interests me in video games or movies or any other kind of art really, which is kind of tied to the theme, are the characters. And I guess you can see why I've chosen Biolab Wars. Characters in this game are kinda cool, with my favorite is of course being this dog named Teddy. It's an actual dog in a robot suit, which actually reminds me of a rather sad comic book which I never read in full, but I read about it online, and I read about it enough to become sad upon remembering it. I definitely don't recommend it, I think it's way too sad. But yeah, those thoughts aside, Biolab Wars is an upbeat, fun game which has a dog in a robot suit, and ain't he a good boy, ain't he? I mean, it's awesome. Dog in a robot suit, what else do you want? I've chosen a pumpkin head warrior for the first 2 levels though, simply because Jack has a cooler motorcycle. Jack has the coolest bike in the game. Teddy gets... how does it called? A scooter. Yeah, Teddy gets a scooter in that second level, in the road level, which is understandable. It's a fun character made for fun, so I'm not sure. Guess it would be a bit off to see a dog on a chopper, but I don't know, I'd give Teddy a cool bike to ride, but that's me. Anyway, yeah, I've chosen Jack for the first 2 levels simply because Jack has the coolest bike, and as I said, machines is #1 thing that interests me in a game. But after the bike has been gone, I've switched to the character, so I switched to Teddy. And Teddy is awesome. I love him. And boy, one of the things which was interesting to me character-wise recently are werewolves. And it just struck me how few werewolf games are out there. So darn few. Vampires got Vampire the Masquerade, and werewolves still have nothing good, even though the topic of a werewolf as an emotional, complex character could have been way awesome. Add something like a dog-headed Saints and Christopher in there, old gods, Impu, Upuatu, it can be awesome. There are so many topics to explore potentially in a game about werewolves, and there are none out there, unfortunately. The whole balance between animalistic side and humane side, it would have been awesome, in my opinion, in my head at least. But yeah, as a matter of fact, both games of my previous massive video, which I talked about for the first several minutes, the video about Werewolf or Asterigos Curse of the Stars, both of those games were found by me when I was searching for games about werewolves. Asterigos Curse of the Stars contained some werewolves, and unfortunately most of them are dumped NPCs, nothing interesting there. Werewolf, though, The Last Warrior is a game where you play werewolf as a werewolf, and even though it is a NES game from 1990, year 1990, I believe, maybe even earlier, I forgot, I believe 1990, anyway, even though it's a NES 8-bit game, and it has a prequel comic book which is like some 10 pages or so, and that's it. It's a comic book, so not much of a dialogue. Still, that NES game and the comic book which came to it has so much information about werewolves compared to the all other medium about werewolves that we have nowadays, that it is pretty much one of the most werewolf-centered games out there. And that says a thing or two, since the dialogue of a comic book and NES game itself combined can fit on one page, of a Word document in 12-sized Times New Roman font. Well, maybe a page and a half, but still, it would be a very short Word document, and that's still the biggest document we have about werewolves when it comes to video games. That really sucks. What can I say? I wish there would have been more games about werewolves. There are none. I found one interesting, and it is named, I believe, oh god, it is named Far Away From Home. Yes, it is named Far Away From Home. I haven't tried it yet, but it seems like the werewolves there are a massive part of the plot, and even though they are NPCs to kill, you can actually make them part of your team. Once again, haven't tried it so far, but it sounds interesting. And I will definitely try that soon enough. If it will be worth it, maybe I'll record some short video about it, even though it is a strategy game, and in my opinion, strategy is one of the genre which is not interesting on video, not entertaining at all. It is slow, characters are moving. The whole point of the strategy are your own perturbations, are your thought processes, well, the way you strategize. That's the point of the strategy, it's in the name. And that's where enjoyment comes from. When you watch such a game on a video, nothing of it is there, in my opinion. So, at least as far as I can see, all the strategy videos, all strategy gameplay videos are complete, utter boredom, empty drag, waste of time. Something along those lines. But if I like the game, since it is very obscure, I probably will try to record some, 5-10 minute juiced out, very compressed point of the whole game. Maybe short review and recommendation or something, we'll see about that. And all in all, I have a small list of games with werewolves which I want to try. Once again, Far Away From Home is the most recent one. There's also one interesting game about, once again, it's a strategy from Japanese developers. It's very specific, but I think I will try it. It is named, and it is about World War II, actually. So, thing is, a couple of your soldiers in there are werewolves. So there are werewolves versus Nazis. And werewolves in that game can actually use weapons. It sounds awesome, but apparently it is actually not that good. And, well, I'll try it once again. If you should try it, I'm not sure. And it is named. I cannot find it in my notes, because my list of games which I want to try is absolutely massive. Here it is. Shining Forces, no that? Operation Darkness. Yes, it is named Operation Darkness. That's another one to look out for. All in all, let me know if you want to see my list of games with werewolves. And most especially if you somehow managed to listen to my voice to the minute 24 of this video, and you know about games where werewolves are more than dumb NPCs. I hate English language. Please do let me know, because I'm dying to find some cool games about werewolves. Because in my opinion, werewolves are metal, and, well, I like dogs. And wolves are basically dogs. Really, I mean, say what you wanna say, but they're not that far away from each other on the evolutionary ladder, so to say. Werewolves and dogs are still very close, and there are lots of videos about wolves on YouTube. Hooray to the modern technology, so you can see it for yourself that if you are close with a wolf, it will be just as cool, cuddly goofball as your average dog. That's what the wolves are. So yeah, so I want to know about more games with werewolves, as long as it is not that game from White Wolf Publishing, which is named Werewolf, because while Vampire the Masquerade is cool, the Werewolf game is not cool. I know about that game, so no need to tell me about it. Besides, I do not really like the depiction of werewolves in White Wolf, especially in modern editions of the tabletop. Old werewolves were cooler, the Garou stuff. New, nah. And the game is mediocre, I've heard about that. But man, really, why are there so few werewolves in culture, werewolf characters? I mean, werewolves are metal, they have massive claws and jaws, and they can be badass and bloody as... Woof. And at the same time, the potential exploration of a character can be immense. But there are so few werewolves. I mean, Vampires got Blade, which was an awesome trilogy. I like all the three films. Yeah, the first and the second one are way cool. The third is a bit worse, but still quite good. But well, in terms of movies, I understand. Showing a believable werewolf on a screen is very hard. It will require some quite deliberate, quite extensive special effects, and special effects nowadays, well, they usually suck. Yeah, so perhaps I'm even glad that there are no werewolves on the screen in modern movies. It is possible, but it is hard to show a good werewolf on a screen. Has been done, by the way. I love how werewolves has been depicted in Van Helsing 2004 movie. Yeah, it's my guilty pleasure. I'm one of the guys who liked that movie. Both vampires and werewolves were shown quite cool in my opinion. And yeah, but in video games, how come no one ever did it? It is really surprising to me. I mean, it looks like an obvious solution. Just drop a werewolf in there and do some kind of character research, some kind of plot arc with a werewolf. Even the appearance of a werewolf in the third The Witcher in the end is kinda cool. Small, cool appearance like that. Skyrim maybe, I don't know nothing about Skyrim. Who said Skyrim? I don't know nothing about Skyrim and I ignore that game. You do not just destroy Morrowind, it's like spitting in my face. I spent half of my life in Morrowind. I'm that kind of a nerd who grew up in Morrowind, and then you just said Morrowind is destroyed? No, Skyrim doesn't exist, dude. I'm not sure what you are talking about. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, hoping there are still games about werewolves which I haven't found. And well, since we are talking about wolves and dogs, there's an interesting topic about it. You could have probably read about it online. But if you haven't, check out the Soviet experiments about domestication of the fox. And peculiar thing about it is that even in the fourth or fifth generation of fox, there started to appear foxes with droopy ears and other things which are really only special to domesticated canids rather than the wild ones. And the fact that they started to appear so quickly is kind of baffling, you know? Turns out some kind of genes which are controlling just how friendly to human the canine is are also controlling these visual features like droopy ears and curved tails, all that stuff. When I first time read about it, it was really like, wow, really surprising. It's quite sad that those experiments ended up going pretty much nowhere, and they were pretty much abandoned when Soviet Union dissolved. No other country picked those up, even though in my opinion, once again, the results were very interesting. And foxes with droopy ears and all that thing, very peculiar. And the point of the experiment was that they simply chose the animals which were more friendly to the humans, and that's about it. That's how it was done. A proposed domestication of the fox in the shortest period possible. That experiment also already managed, before it was abandoned, it was pretty much less or more enough to prove that the domestication of wolves probably was very quick. It was probably a process which took a century or two, and not much more. Very, very interesting stuff. And once again, since it's a process which took only a century or two, yeah, werewolves, just wolves. Wolves are not far from dogs after all. The subsequent, selectivation, so to say, selective breeding of dogs, which led to some very ugly breeds. Now that took some time, but the basic domestication, yeah, it's a really quick thing. Oh, so I read, after all. And well, that being said, with modern scientists being way more friendly to the wolves and way less biased with our, so to say, medieval views of the wolves as monsters dying out, the concept of a noble werewolf, yeah, once again I'm returning to this topic, but the concept of the noble werewolf could have been way cool, and it is way underexplored, and boy, they could use a game with werewolf. That's all I'm talking about. Said I'm not a game dev, yeah, but really, what's stopping me from making my own game is of course the fact that I would have to make graphics. And even pixelated 8-bit graphics are way hard for me. I cannot draw for the life of me. I'm good with code. I could probably write a game in some kind of game maker or whatever. But graphics? No. No, pardon me, no. I cannot do that. I wish I could, but I can't. And of course sounds would be nice. Well, with so many free libraries, I guess I could pick enough of sounds for the game. Music, hey, well, I know someone who probably could cover me on the music side. Yeah, but still, yeah. So far, my own game is somewhere in the realm of dreams. One day, maybe, one day. All in all, I wish I could. But alas, it is as it is right now. And I guess this is the end of Biolab Wars. There are still 2 more minutes for the video, but... Oh, sneaky boss, of course. The second phase, how could I forget about it? Well, I think I just ran out of topics to talk and I just got to drag the video just a little bit more. But, well... freaky oh, by the way, speaking of the whole thing of werewolves and Biolab Wars together, Savage Halloween actually have a werewolf. I wouldn't be surprised if I found Savage Halloween first when I was googling for games with werewolves, and only then I found Biolab Wars. It's quite possible. I don't remember by now, because it's been a while since I found Biolab Wars. I think I found it 2 or 3 years ago and just now finally got to try it out. Here come our heroes. And look at these graphics. You think this is bad? Well, I would have done even worse, I can tell you this. Yeah, I can't do even that good. Can't draw even that good. Or, so to say, even that bad. I guess if you like arcades game, but you always found Contra and other games way too hard for you, Biolab Wars is the game to try. I am very casual. Contra and most other arcade shoot 'em ups, I usually had to use cheats, infinite lives and whatnot. Biolab Wars is one of the games which I actually managed to complete without cheats. Even more, I even managed to complete several stages in a row without dying, which is something amazing. So if you're casual like me and like games like this, you should try it out. Biolab Wars. this is it. Thanks for being with me, cats. Stay cool. Good luck.